Imagine a war without tanks and front lines, but with precise intelligence that destroys entire leadership networks. Imagine a battlefield where data and algorithms are as lethal as missiles. Besides weapons, machines hunt people. Tonight's conflict has a disturbing new twist. AI technology is being used to discover and assassinate high ranking commanders in one of the world's most lethal conflicts. The size is staggering. Israel is accused of using modern intelligence technologies and strategic coordination with the U.S. to kill hundreds of Iran's key military and political people. It's a new perspective on warfare, not fiction. When tech goes beyond snooping and decides who lives and dies, rules of interaction change permanently. A hidden intelligence platform drives this new battle. This system analyzes massive data sets in real time to uncover patterns, links, and flaws, predicts motions, not merely follows them. Then it acts. Reports indicate this AI-powered campaign killed about 250 high-ranking Iranian officers, including commanders and strategic planners. This group plans Iran's security strategy, regional influence, and military cooperation. This advanced method raises critical and troubling questions. When precise attacks destroy leaders, who replaces them? Do we weaken or strengthen threats? Does killing a head stop a threat or worsen it? Geopolitics and defense strategy specialists argue eliminating moderate or pragmatic voices might empower extreme forces. This means a targeted strike could escalate conflict. This conflict and others have shook the world. The battle now threatens a global energy calamity, in addition to targeted strikes and high-tech intelligence. The Persian Gulf meets the ocean through the narrow Strait of Hormuz. This is the world's main energy source. About 20% of global oil and LNG exports pass through this choke point daily. The war is worsening, with missile exchanges, naval posturing, and planned shutdowns threatening that lifeline. Leading analysts say global crude oil and LNG markets are in the worst possible scenario. Aviation and manufacturing companies are preparing for the effects of rising oil prices and stressed supply chains. Every airline ride, each gallon of gas purchased, every ocean-going container is part of a global system under attack. The rationale is clear. Strait of Hormuz threats threaten global energy balance. Naturally, governments worldwide are growing concerned about this conflict. Let's return to this story's core point: war's genuine impact on individuals. While politicians and troops travel around prominent locations and high-tech command centers, millions of people face actual problems. Iranian families face power shortages, disrupted communications, and the fear that things may worsen. Strikes on strategic targets have hit residential communities in Lebanon and along the Israel-Lebanon border. Destroyed houses, closed schools, disrupted lives. In the middle of this, information and technology-based combat is transforming battlefields and war in the 21st century. This is not an old headline. This is now. It's occurring now. Knowing how this new conflict operates is crucial as we progress. It goes beyond bombs and missiles. This concerns intellect, planning, and digital precision. Invisible war costs lives. Imagine a system that analyzes hundreds of data points every second: travel records, communications, finances, and social interactions. After comparing, studying, and ranking this data, the most important decision makers are identified: battle changers, army leaders, and planners. Imagine that system observing and acting. This technology allows targeted strikes within hours after target detection. No guessing, no doubt, just surgically precise. With U.S. support, Israel sent this out. The military leadership of Iran was quickly decapitated. Hundreds of high-ranking officials, once untouchable, were fired. But history shows that conflict is never easy. Overthrowing leaders doesn't guarantee peace. It typically leads to unplanned events. Iran is experiencing political upheaval, warn analysts. Hardliners are rising, moderate voices are being marginalized, and the public doesn't know who controls the state's military. The Iranian Foreign Ministry calls direct discussions with the U.S. unrealistic and excessive. However, intermediaries say the U.S. has tried to negotiate a ceasefire framework that would reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran is sticking to requests Israel is unlikely to meet, such as ending strikes on Iranian friends in the area. This beautiful dance is watched worldwide. Friends and foes are reconsidering. European governments prepare for energy crises. Shipping corporations are shifting ship routes. Tanker insurance costs are skyrocketing. And even non warring nations are feeling the effects of the war on their economies. Meanwhile, Iran and its neighbors must deal with the immediate implications of this high tech battle. Power outages, broken communications, shortage of basic supplies, and fear about things worsening are becoming typical. Lebanon and Israel have struck residential neighborhoods in Beirut and Haifa. Strikes usually target military installations, but always harm civilians. Hospitals are overflowing of injured individuals, emergency services are stretched, and families are concerned about what will happen next. As the conflict escalates, global energy markets are near collapse. Since it controls global oil and LNG flow, the Strait of Hormuz is a geopolitical hotspot. Changes can drastically impact energy prices, economies, and daily life worldwide. Analysts predict energy costs might rise above $200 per barrel if the strait is sealed, even temporarily. Everything from transportation to food would be affected. Besides the battlefield, this struggle is global. It happens in boardrooms, parliaments, and trading floors. Millions of lives are indirectly affected, jobs are destroyed, and markets are disrupted. Despite all this change, the data occasionally hides a human story. Both sides of the fight face dread, hope, and strength. Iran's families survive daily life, trying to protect their children from a hidden algorithm-driven conflict. Lebanon's rebuilding communities are brave despite the catastrophe. As the repercussions spread, the world watches, often helpless. For a moment, this isn't just a local conflict. This is a worldwide strategy, morals, and humanity test. We see technology, power, and human cost colliding. Every decision to strike, negotiate, or escalate has far-reaching implications. The stakes are high. One mistake might cause a regional or global crisis. The world will watch closely in the coming hours, days, and weeks. Every decision, strike, and transaction matters. There are no outside observers in this war. Everyone is involved and will be affected. As the conflict enters its second month, the world is seeing how adaptive Iran's military is, surprising many analysts. U.S. and Israeli precision strikes have garnered attention, but Iran has transformed the battlefield in real time, utilizing asymmetric tactics to face technologically superior forces. Imagine fast setup drones, missile batteries, and air defense systems working together across broad territories. Every move is planned, timed, and metered to disrupt the enemy. Bahrain's defense forces say Iranian drones and missiles have intercepted or overpowered air defense systems hundreds of times since the crisis began. This is deliberate response that displays inventiveness and the terrible might of modern warfare. Iran's regular military has also fortified southern coast areas, particularly Karg Island and Strait of Hormuz ports. These storage facilities are important choke points that might quickly impact the global economy if blocked or destroyed. Strategy and technology are just one aspect. The human side of the conflict hits home. Since power plants damaged in prior strikes are still recovering, southern Iranian cities are experiencing rolling blackouts. Water shortages and desalination plant risks are causing households unimaginable concern. Hospitals are overcrowded and struggle to handle airstrike and missile victims. Families worry about when and where the next attack may occur. Children hear sirens, parents hurry to find shelter, and everyday routines like school, work, and grocery shopping are disrupted by the continual tension of a precision weapon conflict witnessed around the world. Iran's politics are shifting. Hardliners have utilized the situation to consolidate control, claiming protection of the country's independence. Moderate and reformist views are often drowned out by nationalism and opposition. Every comment and public presence aims to affect domestic and international perceptions. This indicates that modern combat is as much about narrative as weaponry. Countries struggle to balance diplomacy with their interests. Pakistan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey have offered aid, but Tehran insists. Israel's airstrikes against Iranian-backed areas in Lebanon, Syria, and Iran complicate talks. Every attack prompts criticism, sanctions, or emergency meetings in capitals worldwide. In contrast, energy markets are volatile. About a fifth of the world's oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz, a key conflict zone. Even with partial closures, oil prices have reached almost $100 per barrel. Any long term disruption might raise prices, according to predictions. Insurance companies are overcharging, shipping businesses are altering routes, and governments are scrambling to discover new energy sources. This chain reaction of violence, disruption, and escalating expenses affects boardrooms, trading floors, and everyday people worldwide. European and Asian families who import energy are paying more for food, transportation, and heating. Despite dread and skepticism, there are brave stories. Quick response shelters, volunteer medical networks, and communication systems have helped Beirut and Haifa families cope with shooting. Iranian neighbors provide food, drink, and shelter to the most vulnerable during hard times. Untold stories of actual people illustrate how strong people are during war. New fighting technology have also accelerated due to the war. Nowadays, cyber attacks, drone surveillance, AI-assisted targeting, and encrypted communications are ubiquitous. This war isn't limited to land or air. On networks, satellites, and command centers, every signal, movement, and computation can save or kill. Politicians worldwide react differently. European leaders want diplomatic solutions and caution against escalation. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has publicly begged Trump to cease the conflict. He claimed the U.S. must do so for particular reasons. Spain bans U.S. military jets. This indicates escalating global tensions regarding Operation Authenticity and engagement. The U.S. has hinted at more operations to defend critical rivers and eliminate threats. In this geopolitical storm, no nation, leader, or person is safe. Tehran to Haifa, New York to Berlin, this war has immediate and global implications. They will transform economies, cultures, and futures in ways that will be studied for decades. The planet is on the brink as the conflict continues. Every missile halted, cyber attack launched, and diplomatic discussion tried reminds us that the next hour could change borders, alliances, and lives. Never before have the stakes been higher. This battle is nearby. This battle touches every home, market, and existence in the global energy, trade, and survival web. Citizens pay the most while not seeing it during loud sirens and blasts. Tehran families hear unusual air raid sirens in the morning. Kids grasp their parents' hands, sometimes unable to distinguish between real and weird and chaotic. Daily tasks like going to school, obtaining food, and getting fresh air are daring. The southern Beirut suburbs are both strong and destroyed. Even though buildings are gone and highways are blocked, neighbors search through the rubble to find survivors and help the injured. One mother, clutching her toddler, explains, "It's like living in a nightmare that happens every hour, but we can't stop moving forward." These raw, uncensored stories make the battle seem more real than numbers. Families in Haifa, Israel, across the Gulf, spoke about sleeping in underground shelters and hearing intercepted missiles and explosions. Recently, missile debris hit the city's famous oil refinery, creating fear and a rush for rescue. Even while the Iron Dome stops most threats, the stress keeps people on edge, proving that the war transcends beyond the battlefield. Political conditions in the region are changing rapidly, but citizens are feeling the effects immediately. Hezbollah in Lebanon, Iran-backed forces in Syria, and the Houthis in Yemen are all involved in the battle at some level. The local war has become a multi-front conflict. Each involvement escalates the stakes, perhaps igniting Middle Eastern bloodshed. International diplomacy struggles. Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Turkey have sought to intervene, but Tehran's demands, stopping Israeli strikes on Iranian allies and collecting reparations, go against Israel's geopolitical ambitions. Europe remains tense. For instance, Spain bans U.S. military flights. This symbolic yet dramatic move illustrates how divided the globe is over the battle. Energy markets are about to collapse. Despite being a major shipping route, the Strait of Hormuz remains a flashpoint. Even partial shutdown or expectations of interruption have raised oil prices beyond $100 per barrel. Gas prices rise, supply systems strain, and governments scramble for alternatives. All of the globe feels this dilemma, not just the Middle East. Given the stakes, financial markets react with dread, frequently out of proportion. Global traders, investors, and employees are scared and enthusiastic by the conflict. Every missile launch, diplomatic statement, drone, or attack thwarted affects equities, bonds, and commodities. Long-term interruptions might produce a global energy crisis, which could induce recessions in non-military economies, analysts believe. However, technology plays a curious part in the chaos. High-tech monitoring, AI-assisted targeting, and encrypted conversations improve cooperation like never before. Meanwhile, civilians use technology to communicate, share news, and follow the conflict. Social media provides warnings, a way to stay alive, and a window into the world for people worldwide. Mental toll is huge. War atrocities can traumatize children for decades. Defending their family in the midst of chaos causes stress that non-war zone residents cannot understand. Communities are breaking up, yet solidarity is growing. Stories of bravery, resilience, and generosity are told in the dark. Locals risk their lives to help strangers. Medical teams labor under fire, and volunteers send food, water, and medical supplies to those cut off by conflict. Global military planning has changed because to this fight. One new paradigm in battle is that controlling territory is as vital as harming economic and energy infrastructure, say analysts. Iran's response indicates that asymmetric warfare like drones, missiles, and cyber attacks may compensate for technology gaps. The U.S. and Israel focus on high-value targets. Instead of large-scale ground battles, future warfare may emphasize speed, disruption, and accuracy. However, people's stories stick with me. A southern Iranian parent describes how an energy plant strike turned out his hamlet's lights. I couldn't boil water for my family, he realized. In Beirut, a student barely escapes an airstrike on her institution. When terror and instinct collided, she was grateful to breathe, not just numbers or statistics. These lives, prospects, and people have been tested to the limit. A global audience watches. Leaders speak, warn, and propose ceasefires. No matter what politicians say, life continues. Everyone is part of this global drama, whether it's due to rising energy prices, fear of worsening conditions, or social media and news reports. This portion shows that battle is never just about tactics or politics. Very human. It distorts daily life, alters reality, and causes weird situations for normal individuals. In every explosion, siren, and blackout, strength, dread, and hope are heard. They remind everyone that every headline and statistic has lives at stake. The smoke from Tehran, Haifa, and Beirut shows the world that this is a global storm, not just a local fight. Analysts say a U.S. Israeli assault against Iran has become a multi-front conflict with numerous parties, which might cause a chain reaction beyond the Middle East. Every missile halted, drone shot down, every oil ship delayed, sends global shockwaves. Energy remains central. News and discussions still center on the narrow but vital Strait of Hormuz. Even short-term strait closures have raised crude oil prices above $110 per barrel. Global governments are rushing and markets are chaotic. Fuel shortages in Europe, rising shipping costs in Asia, and uncertainty in the U.S. worry investors. Commodity dealers call it the worst possible scenario, when geopolitics and economics collide catastrophically. The global supply chain is already stressed from years of pandemic recovery, and now it's even more so. Shipping companies modify ship routes, ports can only handle a limited number of ships, and food and gadgets are delayed. Continuing conflict may generate recessions in multiple nations, turning a regional war into a worldwide economic calamity, economists fear. Meanwhile, global officials' reactions demonstrate the world system is failing. European governments, already leery of the U.S. and Israel acting alone, are now concerned about the strike's legality and humanitarian impact. Spain's ban on U.S. military planes set a precedent that not all allies would obey commands. Germany, France, and the U.K. are under internal pressure to reconcile energy demands and escalating regional unrest. At the same time, European public opinion is growing uneasy. Nearby Middle Eastern countries feel the effects immediately. Egypt imports Gulf oil and trades with the Mediterranean. It directly asks President Trump to end the war to save energy. Bahrain and the UAE have intercepted hundreds of missiles and drones, demonstrating their threat to population and infrastructure. Saudi Arabia and Turkey are trying to resolve things diplomatically, but the situation is changing swiftly. Military tactics vary quickly in combat zones. Iran has attacked military targets and crucial infrastructure in Israel, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia with drones and ballistic missiles. Israel's pinpoint airstrikes and speedy deployment demonstrate modern warfare's high-tech nature. Civilians get caught in the crossfire even with Iron Dome and other modern defense systems. The U.S. remains strong. Trump's threats to Iran about targeting Karg Island and other energy assets are political and military. They are meant to maintain control when negotiating. U.S. intelligence and military planners are considering maritime blockades and tailored strikes to control energy flow without escalation. Every decision carries the possibility of a regional war with multiple nuclear-capable nations. The human cost is most crucial in high-stakes moves. Normal life is upended when refugees depart border communities, and hospitals are full of injured patients. Southern Iran's industrial worker describes how one attack destroyed his community's water supply, forcing people to fight for survival. A Beirut teen recalls rushing through wreckage following Israeli bombings. Her voice shakes as she adds, "Every day feels like we are living on borrowed time." These intimate experiences show that war is human, not numbers and plans. Social media distributes truth and fiction. Civilians spread news, warnings, and aid requests, while governments control the narrative. The 31-day Iranian internet ban hinders communication and fosters fear, gossip, and uncertainty. They risk their lives to record truth for the rest of the world using alternative networks like Starlink. Economists and political watchers expect long-term impacts. Energy volatility, closed economic pathways, and increased military commitments could reshape the Middle East for decades. Countries must reconsider their relationships, military plans, and prepare for a future where geopolitical danger is daily. The battle also sparked debates about modern warfare's morality. Cluster bombs, drone strikes, and infrastructure attacks near humans demonstrate the fine line between tactical need and humanitarian calamity. Human Rights Watch has condemned non-discriminatory attacks, raising questions of responsibility and accountability. These discussions are now influencing international law and public opinion. Strength emerges from turmoil. Community members help each other, physicians and nurses labor hard under fire, and volunteers bring food, drink, and medical care to conflict zone residents. These daring and compassionate acts brighten the gloomy reality and remind people that there is hope even in the worst situations. In Part 5, it becomes evident that this battle is about more than fighting. It challenges strategy, diplomacy, human endurance, and resilience worldwide. Today's decisions will affect the Middle East, the global economy, politics, and society for years to come. Every strike, blockade, and diplomatic conversation affects governments and millions of people caught in the midst. Shadows lengthen in the Middle East at night, but stakes rise. Experts say the U.S. Israel-Iran conflict has reached a point where every move must be carefully evaluated. Every decision, error, or attack might escalate countries into wars no one wants, but everyone fears. Imagine the Strait of Hormuz closed for weeks. Oil prices exceed $150 per barrel. Shipping companies shift routes throughout Africa, delaying delivery by weeks. Food shortages hit poor nations hard. The effects are felt worldwide, from European farmers to Chinese factory workers. The cost to the economy is tremendous, but the cost to people is worse. Families are being displaced, children can't go to school, and hospitals are struggling to treat the sick and injured. This might happen if the war continues unabated. Alarms, sirens, and worry plague Tehran, Haifa, and Beirut residents. Daily fears include airstrikes, drone attacks, and missile barrages. While men protect their neighborhoods, mothers care for their children in shelters. Volunteers risk their lives to provide food, water, and medicine. A Lebanon teacher recalls the morning her school was damaged. "We thought education was our safe space. Now, even that is gone." These voices are actual proof of geopolitics' human cost. Politics continue behind closed doors. Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Turkey offer assistance, but talks are slow and mistrustful. Iran wants reparations, Israel's guaranteed not to meddle, and a stop to Israeli strikes on its friends. The U.S. and Israel want Iran to immediately reopen the Strait of Hormuz and stop its military expansion. Diplomacy is a high-stakes game with global consequences, since both parties know that compromise could be regarded as weakness. Military planners think technology is transforming warfare. Drone swarms, infrastructure cyber attacks, and pinpoint missile strikes are altering power. Traditional front lines no longer matter. Civilians and military assets are mixed, making tactical decisions ethically and strategically challenging. Even contemporary defenses like Israel's Iron Dome and Bahrain's missile interception systems have weak points, and failures are devastating. The economists are warning the global energy market is more stressed than ever. Rising demand and crude oil and LNG supply disruptions could cause a recession in key economies. Already high inflation may rise further. The uncertainty is obvious as governments try to collect reserves, stabilize markets, and soothe citizens. Financial markets fluctuate after missile strikes, port closures, and diplomatic deadlocks, showing how intertwined world politics and economics are. Despite these issues, people are strong. Tehrannians build a clinic in a bombed-out neighborhood. In Beirut, volunteers rescue families from collapsed buildings. In the region, ordinary people show incredible bravery, proving that humans are still people in combat. These stories inspire hope by showcasing real-life issues and successes beyond legislative disputes. Analysts predict several future outcomes. As direct confrontation escalates, other countries may join, possibly creating a regional conflict. Nuclear weapons may be discussed more, but no one expects them to be used. Stalemate. Fighting continues. Infrastructure deteriorates. Global markets remain unstable, and humanitarian situations worsen without clear victories. Negotiated de-escalation. Pakistan and Egypt mediate Strait of Hormuz, energy, and regional security deals, but tensions remain high. Anything can go wrong. One false move can turn a weak state into anarchy, as every choice balances strength, survival, and diplomacy. Light illuminates the area, revealing that this battle is about more than oil and borders. It's about people, power, and generational choices. Everyone is affected, from southern Lebanon civilians displaced to Gulf military. Every decision affects economies, civilizations, and political alliances worldwide. This is not an old story for tonight's viewers. It's real and could change your life in ways you can't imagine. Global markets, energy prices, and humanitarian crises are influencing your country's choices. Understanding the human, political, and economic components of this conflict is now required. Hope persists despite despair and ruin. Diplomats discuss, mediators negotiate, and everyday people live, rebuild, and aid. Even in our worst crisis, the human spirit is powerful, adaptable, and long-lasting. Remember that war is fought in hearts, minds, and communities as the cameras roll and the world watches. Every life, story, and person matters. As the crisis continues, staying informed, showing compassion, and becoming active are the only ways to survive under such pressure. The Middle East is changing. Our choices now will affect people, politics, and the economy for years. The world is watching to see what people do.